Hello whisky fans and welcome back. Let's freshen up the glass. Need some more water soon. It's always a good idea to have water on hand when you're tasting whisky. Just refresh your palate, and if it's a particularly high strength dram, it's always good to stay hydrated and keep your throat lubricated. So, December the 19th. Christmas is rapidly approaching. Let's see what we've got today. That didn't break. Oh, it's butchered it. Oh. I don't know if that's going to go back on. Damn, we'll have to drink it all. That's an interesting one. Salty, floral, strong note of like cut flowers, violets, a little bit of slight touch of Parma violet. Really interesting. Is it going to go back on? That's not going to seal. One of the little perforations around the edge didn't break, and it just kind of undid all the little formed thread in the top. Bugger. Reasonably pale, probably similar colour to some of the other drams that we've had lately. Not the darkest, but doesn't look particularly natural. Looks like I might have a bit of colouring in it. But that smells a lot like what I smelt from when I first opened the bottle. Floral, salty, sweet, malty, a little bit young. It's got a particular hard barley note in it, which possibly is a little bit of youth, or possibly some slightly inactive casks. Again, smells a little bit similar to the Ancnoc that we had yesterday. And it's a light, delicate profile, vaguely sweet, vaguely floral, vaguely salty. Slight nuttiness. Interesting though. Very delicate. I would guess that this is probably majority bourbon and a little bit of sherry. I think that floral character I'm smelling what I interpret as a little bit of slightly dry Oloroso, but not a majority. I think it's an accent. I think that they've used some Oloroso in this. See how it tastes. Caramel, oranges, floral, malty. Again, vaguely sweet, sweet caramel. A little bit of a jelly sweet confectionery note. It reminds me quite a lot, and a lot of this might be the intensity and the experience of the Ancnoc that we had yesterday. Yesterday's Ancnoc. Be interesting to compare those two. I think this is better than the Ancnoc that we had yesterday. But I think that they're probably both low strength drams. Yeah, I think today's dram is better than the Ancnoc, but not by a wide margin. I think that there's a bit more character in this dram that we've got today compared to the Ancnoc. In particular, that slightly confectionery, jelly sweets, orangey, like candied orange peel note. And a slight dry character. Makes it a little bit more interesting, and I think it's not quite as thin on the palate. Saying that, it's still absolutely no more than 43%. Salty oranges, a little bit of sherry. Decent but not great. What about the Tomatin? Quite similar with that sweet oranginess to the Tomatin. I think that's probably around about where this one's going to go. I think that the Denny is a little bit more interesting. So it's really this one versus the Tomatin. What strength? The Tomatin is 43%. Very, very close. Really too close to call between this Dram today and that Tomatin 12. Really, really close. Gonna have to have a little bit more, especially seeing as the lid doesn't seal anymore. I've got no choice but to have a little bit more, because otherwise it's going to spoil. Very difficult. I think you could really flip a coin there between the Tomatin 12 and this one. I think that today's Dram has got a little bit more of a hard edge, and because of that possibly a little bit more character, but it's really so close. I think because it has got a little bit more of an edge to it, I'm going to give it the edge over the Tomatin. So what have we got? Pulteney. So Old Pulteney Distillery, and it's the 12-year-old. So again, that explains why it's got that little bit of a lackluster power performance to it, because it is another 40% whiskey. Old Pulteney is a distillery that I used to really like. It's a whiskey that I used to buy quite regularly, not only because the Old Pulteney 12-year-old is really affordable, used to be on really good discounts in the supermarket, and it's not as underwhelming as some. Especially, the perfect example is comparing this to that Ancnoc 12. I think that this is more interesting and it's got more easily accessible flavours to it. But it is still an economically produced, very entry-level product. But it's an interesting one. And if you're the kind of person that's just getting into whiskey and you want to see some different styles of whiskey, this is a fantastic one, because you can get it really cheap in supermarkets here in the UK. And it's interesting. Weak. It is a bit weak on the palate though, because it's only 40%. The real reason why I haven't really bought any Highland Park, where the hell did that come from? The real reason why I haven't bought any Old Pulteney lately is because I used to really love the 17-year-old. The 21 was okay, but I think that the 17-year-old was a better whiskey with some really good sherry on it, and because it didn't have too much of that dry Oloroso. It had a little bit more vibrant, fruity maltiness to it. I think that the 17 was the Old Pulteney, kind of the classic of all time, Old Pulteney. And when they got rid of that and replaced it with the 15 and the 18, neither of them were just quite as good as that classic 17. Which is a massive shame. So yeah, not a great place on the leaderboard for the Old Pulteney, but it is a solid dram if you can get it for a really good price. And often you can. Thanks for watching. Not many doors left now. See you tomorrow. Cheers.